This episode of A Conversation with John Conenna is sponsored by Generate. In today's digital age, staying ahead means harnessing the power of generative AI. Wondering how your small or medium-sized business can join this revolution? Look no further than Generate, your strategic partner for integrating cutting-edge generative AI solutions. We create personalized plans, adapting existing AI technologies to fit your specific business needs. Plus, our expert team provides essential training, empowering you to make the most of these innovative technologies. Interested in transforming your business with AI? Reach out to us at generateteam@gmail.com. That's generate, GENERAIT, team@gmail.com. And now, on with the episode.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of A Conversation with John Conenna. Tonight we go down a path that I truly love that I wish I could have done what this young man has been doing. I tonight am bringing in a young man that I'm honored to have on. I'm going to mention something about him that he did for me about 4 or 5 years ago. But tonight we bring in Vince Martorano, who is a multi-platform journalist for the WFI News 18 out of West Lafayette, Indiana. Vince is the pride, in my opinion, of Vernon Hills, and of course, a graduate of Ball State University. Vince, I can honestly say of all my guests, you're probably my youngest, but what is going on with you, young man? And thank you for coming on.
John, I'm excited to be here. Like I said, I've been looking forward to this for about a week since you told me. I wish we did it that night. So I've been prepping myself, been getting ready, and excited to hear where this conversation goes.
Yeah, no, this was great. Yeah, I'm the same way like you. I know we kind of talked off camera. Sometimes I'll invite somebody and I want to do it right then and there because the questions are flowing in your head, you know?
Exactly. And I was doing the same thing on my end of thinking of the responses like, oh gosh, what if you ask this? I got to be ready for it.
You got to be ready, right.
That's well.
And you like the spontaneity. I think you're going to be great at this. But I got to ask you.
Yeah.
Of course, I met you when you were doing some reporting for the local magazine here in Chicago called The Frannoi, a beautiful Italian magazine. And I got to meet you, and I just loved you from that first day. How does it start for you, though? You know, basically, because to the level now that you've gotten here in a young age, you know, being this multi-platform journalist for a news station in Indiana, when was it? Was it in high school? Was it before? Did you have that confidence to say, hey, I kind of like this? Was there somebody on TV in Chicago, you being from Vernon Hills? Take us through that a little bit.
Yeah, so it started from a young age of constantly watching ESPN, NBA TV, NFL Network, and all of the big sports networks out there, and just consuming them like anyone would watch it, you know, binge a show on Netflix. I mean, I had that on at all times, no matter what I was doing. And that's kind of where my passion for sports started. And as I kind of got older, the dream of playing died. I kind of realized that pretty quickly once I hit high school, but I was like, man, what is the next closest thing that I can do to still be around this? So my senior year of high school, I joined our journalism class, which was writing our school newspaper. And I became our sports editor and wrote some stories. We wrote, I think, once a month. So I was talking to our local athletes at school, going out to games, covering those. Still had a lot to learn at that point. You know, I kind of reflect on it now of just like, wow, like where I have come from senior year of high school to then. And so that, I want to say was winter because I remember it being really cold. That winter or spring, my parents were like, all right, Ben, it's time for college. Like, where are you looking? And I knew that media was still what I wanted to do.
Sure.
Ball State, 4.5 hours away, Muncie, Indiana. Fantastic journalism program. But my parents like, we got to get some scholarships rolling. I said, all right. And I applied for one, which was just so fitting, John. It was the John Fischetti Award. And you had to be at least 50% Italian.
Okay.
And a male going into a journalism major in Chicago.
In Chicago, yes.
And I was like, well, That sounds right up my alley. So I applied for that and I got it. And from that award ceremony, I had who's the editor of Fernoy. His name's Paul. Paul sends me an email and he says, "Hey, Vincent, I saw you at the John Fischetti Award. I'm looking for a new sports editor and would love to bring you on, mentor you." And that is exactly what Paul did. I was still so new into the game, but I was like, wow, what an opportunity to be a part of a real publication. And I haven't even stepped a foot in the collegiate classroom yet. So that's where that got started. That's when I reached out to you about the story in our conversation going back a couple of years ago.
Was that, Vince, was that 2018, 19?
Yeah, that's when that would have been right before the pandemic, the year before the pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that again like it was yesterday, and I never forgot it. Matter of fact, I have framed that article, which I'm going to bring up at the end to our audience. Yeah. That was basically, and again, the Frannoy is well received here in Chicago, through our Italian community, of course. And I think I shouldn't say the word Italian, through our European community, and it's well received, and it's a beautiful magazine. And yes, Paul Basili was I think the editor in chief.
Yes, he was. That's him. Yep. And they really do such a nice job with it. I mean, every story was looked over multiple times, putting the best work out there, getting just the right people to talk to. I mean, you'd go through it, and every story was just so well done.
I have to ask you, because you brought it up here early, the Ball State. So Ball State is known for its journalism, and like say journalism, broadcast. Did you know that when you were at Vernon Hills?
Yeah, I had a friend of one of my cousins who went there, mentioned it to my cousin. He told me, he's like, "You should go check this out." And I was like, all right. So me and my dad go take the road trip out to Muncie, Indiana.
Muncie, Indiana.
Muncie, Indiana. That was an experience for sure. But man, I stepped on campus and I was like, this is how, like, it just felt right. You get that feeling of this is just where you're meant to be. And everywhere we looked, every corner, and then they bring you into this state-of-the-art newsroom where the magazine's over at one end. In the middle is the whole student-ran newspaper. And in the corner in this fishbowl with the glass windows is the TV studio, all student ran. So it's super hands-on. And it's funny, John, like, I started at Fernoy and with my high school paper, and I thought I wanted to be a writer. And it's funny, when I became friends with some of the newspaper people, they told me it was really funny story. So right before the year started, I did my first story on a preview of the women's lacrosse team at Ball State, just a season preview, nothing crazy.
Yeah.
John, that was the only story I ever wrote for Ball State Daily.
Wow.
And, I just kept going back and forth of taking my classes, meeting friends, getting involved. I ended up joining Greek life, and there were just some things my freshman year I wanted to do, but I never could get myself to get back in there and want to do more articles. And I thought to myself, I'm like, I'm still passionate about this, but something isn't really clicking with just the writing aspect. And I called my
You wanted to take it to another level, correct?
I wouldn't say another, but take it to a different. Because I respect anyone who jumps into this profession and does, reporting, broadcasting, whatever it may be. It's so unique, and just throwing yourself out there, getting your name out there, doing the work and calling people and, putting yourself out there in front of a ton of people to watch exactly what you do. It's not easy. So I wanted to try something different. And I had a buddy of mine who was in the organization I ended up joining called NewsLink Indiana. And that is a student-ran TV broadcast that goes on at Ball State. And I called my parents that night and I said, guys, I think this is what I want to try. I have a big personality, a lot of energy, love to show that. Parents are like,
"You're making this show tonight electric." I'm telling
you. That's it.
I love it.
That was my thought process. And so my parents are like, why didn't we think of that? Like, yes, you are such a talker and like people person, like, go ahead, like, not that they need the permission, but like, Vin, like, go do that. Like, that is what you were meant to do. And I jumped in there, and that is when everything really took off for me.
I got to ask you, and then I want to ask you the question that I saw that I thought that was pretty cool
Yeah.
about you. Were your parents these real Italian parents? Because I got to tell you, my parents were real Italian. I had this dad of mine. They were both from Italy, from a region called Bari, Puglia. And my dad was this type. No, sorry, you're not going to go work journalism because that's what my degree was at Loyola. You're going to work in the
Yeah.
travel agency. Sorry, you're going to stay here night and day. And my mom couldn't speak a word of English. Were your parents that kind of Italian?
Honestly, I owe so much of where I'm at today because of my parents who've just
Fantastic.
let me chase my dreams and do whatever I needed to do to get to the point that I'm at. And they have been nothing but amazing and supportive of everything I've wanted to do. Now,
what are your parents' name, Vince? Because I want them to see this because this is going to come out in a couple days on
awesome.
YouTube and Spotify. What are their names, Mom and
Yeah,
Dad?
it's Caroline and Tony Martorano. And I just have to thank them for everything and supporting me and all of everything I've wanted to do. So they really are all stars. They're amazing. But no, they wanted me to go out and try it. And, I think they may have had a little bit of hesitation in the sense of journalism's kind of it's very open-ended. Like,
Right, right.
you go into journalism, what are you necessarily getting out of it? What does that career path look like? But they trusted me to figure it out. And I started doing broadcast my sophomore year of college. By my junior year, I became one of the sports directors. And then by senior year, I was looking for a job. And that is when WLFI reached out to me and said,
Wow.
I've got a part news, part sports job here for you. What do you think? And I'm like, produce sports, being kind of closer to home, being with my friends in Indianapolis. Like, it just felt like the right place to go, just kind of right in the middle of everything I knew about my life.
You started to feel the fit. I got to ask you, let's go back to the sports end of it. You
Yeah.
did a thing, I think it's at Ball State, the station was probably called WCRD.
That was a radio show I also did. So I
The
did
Fantasy Express.
The Fantasy Express. Yeah.
Yeah. And
A little
how
bit of,
was that? I mean, that was a sports show, correct?
yes, it was. So that was my getaway from everything I was doing. So a little bit of backstory here. So I once I took over the once I became one of the sports directors at Newslink, that just kind of became my thing. I was in the newsroom Monday through Thursday from what was it, 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. every night, unpaid. That was just kind of like a job, unpaid, but
Wow.
on top of classes and just life and friends and stuff at college, I was balancing that. And you know what? It was fun going to do sports and reporting on it for that. Like, it's what I wanted to do. It was what I was chasing my dream to be. But
Sure.
it was also a lot of pressure at times getting the newscast up, like mentoring younger people, doing what I needed to do. The Fantasy Express, John, was my getaway. We had a 2-hour sports show where we talked about anything sports, anything we wanted to say. I mean, within like airway guidelines, but it was just, we made the outline. Me and one of my buddies, I'll shout about Joey Moore, were just inseparable with our Newslink organization as well as WCRD on the Fantasy Express. And we'd have guests on. We had some of our buddies who we knew were big fans of whatever teams or sports we were talking about to get their insight. And it was just a sports talk show getaway for 2 hours once a week.
Wow. I mean, and again, and you were talking, like, say, it was this time of year, you were talking about the Dallas Mavericks versus the Boston Celtics. You were talking about Edmonton playing the Florida Panthers.
Giving our picks, giving analysis of just what a couple of guys in college think about what's going on here. And,
Right.
we were guys that are invested in, I guess, NBA media specifically during this time. And what we've heard talking about headlines, talking about player matchups, talking very analytical about the series, not just, oh, your take is terrible, blah, blah, but like we had some fun like that, but it was also very fun but professional in a sense. So it was really cool to be able to get that kind of experience because it was so different than the TV side of things.
Exactly. Now, was there call-ins? Could like a John Conenna call in and say, "Hey, Vince Martorano, what do you mean the Indianapolis papers are basis?"
I wish we had that, but the station phone went out. I tried to get it back, and they were like, "No, we're not bringing the phone." I don't know the story of why they got rid of it, but it has to be a phenomenal story. So, John, what we did instead is we streamed it. I created an Instagram account, and we started doing live videos.
Oh,
So all of
wow.
our followers can jump on and message something. And if they had an opinion, we'd bring them in on that. Or we'd mention, hey, so-and-so said this take was bad, or like they had an interjection to something. So that was kind of the way we took call-ins. But no, we had the phone on the wall, but it was out of service.
But can you imagine? I mean,
Oh
that would
my
have been,
gosh.
but you were very innovative with the stream, which was fantastic.
That's the way things go now, John. I mean,
Yeah.
the podcast, all digital. Everything in this industry is going heavily social media digital. But, John, the amount of times I'd sit there just kind of glancing over at the phone, waiting for the off chance that it would ring. Yep, this is Vinny. You're on the Fantasy Express. It never happened. It never happened.
But,
But I wanted it to.
That show would have been a 4-hour show. And on a cleaner note, it could have been a Howard Stern event, you know.
Yeah, it could have. And then we would have had family and stuff calling in. You guys are doing a great job. All right. Well, thank you very much. You know, yes, it would have been a 5-hour show. And we would have gotten booted out of the studio.
Can you imagine all the opinions? So the WCRD, the fantasy is it before you go to Wayne 15 in Fort Wayne? Because Fort Wayne was like your internship, correct?
That was one of my 2 internships I did, and that one was going from junior year to senior year. And I did the Fantasy Express starting my sophomore year, second semester.
Got it.
So they interchanged. I mean, I was doing them both at the same time, but Newslink and WCRD, the radio, were during school, and then Wayne 15 was in the summer.
Got it. So now, I mean, kind of stepping around this,
yeah,
I'm getting out of this that you became kind of diversified. You know, not only the writing, you know, you had that gift of gab. You weren't afraid to get in front of the audience and everything. So now you've become this, you know, we call in basketball the sixth man, or the guy coming in off the bench saying, "Hey, I got this. Don't worry about it." You know?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Now this WLFI 18 comes calling.
Yeah, they came calling. And, you know, you mentioned Wayne 15. I owe a ton of where I'm at because of that station, because I knew I wanted to go work in local news as at the time as a sports reporter. But I took the position at Wayne, and they told me up front, it's a news position. But if you want to do sports, you gotta understand news, how a news station works, how the news runs. I said, so be it. If I gotta learn something else to get to where I want to be, let's do it. Never in a million years, John, did I think I would fall in love and develop such a passion for news. And that's kind of where we go with WLFI. I wanted to do sports there, but they told me upon being hired that I was number 4 in line. And I was going to be news. And I said, you know what? It's one of the smallest markets in the country, but they were offering me a chance to do everything. News, sports, anchoring, writing, everything you could possibly dream of doing in this industry. They were offering it all up to me.
So, I mean, if there was a chance, like say, "Hey, Vince, we got a problem tonight. You know, our Cheryl Scott out here, the weather girl, is sick. You're doing the weather."
No. That I was not doing. Oh gosh, John, we would have lost so much viewership if they put me on the weather wall. That would have been the worst. I mean, it would have been funny.
No, but I mean, could you have you done the weather where you're just going to say, "Hey, tonight we're going to get showers in Indiana, and you know, tomorrow it's going to be a sunny day"? Could you have left it like that?
I could have at least gotten you there. I don't know if I could have.
Right.
I don't think I could have given the full 3-minute debrief like we give our meteorologists. They are fantastic here.
Fantastic.
But
Yes, yes, yes.
I mean, they're like scientists that go on TV. It's amazing what they are. So shout out to them. But no, I could at least go on the weather app and tell you, oh, the week looks like it's going to be rainy this part, but sunny. I mean, I could have given you the iPhone version of the weathercast.
So when you say now, I mean, this is fantastic that you have, you're on this news station, and at
Yeah.
your young age, you've accomplished. I think this was great when I was reading this up on you a couple of weeks ago before I called you to be this multi-platform journalist.
Yeah.
So today, just before we went on camera, you were talking about something with the water there in West Lafayette and everything else out of Indianapolis. So tomorrow, I mean, it could be something else where you're going in another part of the state, correct?
Potentially, but I know what I am doing tomorrow. And tomorrow, my story is someone actually reached out to us and said, hey, my dad is a West Lafayette High School grad. He just competed in the state games as a track runner. He ran the 50-meter and 100-meter and got first place in both. Now, next July, he is heading to the National Senior Olympics to run track. He's from West Lafayette.
Wow.
And so I scooped the interview today, met with them at the track. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to film his workouts. He works out at the high school track where he went to high school. He said, I played football on that field, and that's the place I know where to work out and get better. So this is where I'm going to do my, train for the Senior Olympics. So that's going to be a pretty cool story. And it's kind of sportsy too. So I get my itch of doing sports, but now I'm heavily news. In my short time being here, I've become our lead reporter. So I tackle a lot of the major stories going on in Tippecanoe County, Lafayette, West Lafayette, Purdue. So it has been really a cool transition for me to give my storytelling on such a different perspective than I thought I was going to be doing coming out of college.
Sure. I want to ask you this question before I get back to you. Well, how many times a day in Indiana does the WLFI 18 come on for the viewership to see?
Yeah, so we have a 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. morning newscast.
Wow.
30-minute noon newscast, a 30-minute 5 and 6 o'clock, and then a 30-minute 10 and 11. And normally I'm live, like breaking my news that I tell at 5 and 6, which are our most viewed newscasts, I believe. And then those stories will run through 10 and 11, and then they'll reuse them in the morning. So my name and my content is flowing 24 hours once it airs.
What is a normal hourly day for Vince Martorano?
Yeah, so I usually get to the station about 9:15. We have our editorial meetings where we go over stories and pitches and what the plan's going to look like at 9:30. And it gets to the ground running. I mean, if I know my story, if I don't have interviews set up, it's cold calling people. Hey, what are you doing today? Talk to them. And hey, do you mind if I come talk to you about this on camera? And depending on what the story needs, 2, 3, 4 people to talk to me. I'm setting up times to talk to people kind of. And then between interviews, I'm, researching my story about what it is that we're going to be talking about if I don't know. So there's a lot of research and a lot of looking things up, and then also going to talk to people. And it's a lot of learning on the fly. So then after all my interviews are done, and I go out and shoot my video. So that's the other funny thing. At the lower level, you are doing all of the camera work by yourself and all of the writing and all of the editing, and I'm setting up my own live shots. And that's what the multimedia part is. They hand me a backpack and a tripod, and I go out and do all of that.
So this is not showing up at 9 o'clock in a suit and give me this piece of paper. Okay, hi, I'm Vince Martorano.
No. Oh, I wish. No, I'm going out filming, editing, writing, and then I'm setting up my own camera to go live and the lighting, and then I'm in front of it.
Right. And I've seen some of the streams from there. A matter of fact, we had that incident here in Chicago that reminded me of you again, where you'll explain that one when the bird, the whole thing landed on your head, and that went viral.
John, that clip went international. I mean, it was unbelievable. So I'll let you in that
Yeah,
story.
what was the coverage of that where this bird landed on you?
So get this. So this small town about 40 minutes outside of Lafayette called Frankfort, Indiana. Um, they have a bird aviary where they hold about 330 exotic birds, and people can go in and walk through it. It's almost like a petting zoo, but for birds. So you don't really
Got
pet.
it?
It's like a butterfly thing, when you go
Yeah,
in the butterfly garden and you walk through, but it's birds.
it's all
And
birds.
so I reported on it Monday, but the Sunday morning prior, somebody came in that morning and cut a hole in the net and grabbed 9 of the most exotic birds. And police were telling me the total, if they were to resell those, goes for like $30,000. So, quick
Jeez.
way to flip some quick cash.
Yeah.
What he's seeing. So I drive out to Frankfurt. I jump in the aviary and I start talking to the people that work there. I talk to the parks department, getting interviews, and now I'm shooting video of these birds and their habitat and video of the hole that's in the net that's been patched. And then when we're usually that far out, I don't go live just because of time's sake to get back and put it all together. So I record myself saying it, and it's like a stand up. You go in front of the camera and say
Sure.
things. You're not live. So I set up my camera and I'm like, oh, this will be a cool little shot. The bird's perching on the little hut there, and maybe he'll fly away, and it'll be a cool, dramatic shot of the bird going. And so I set it up and I give him a glance, and I could see his side eye looking at me. I said, okay, we're on the same page. He's just going to take off. It'll look cool. Little did I know, John, that he would fly right on top of my head. I had no idea what was happening in that moment because I was in the middle of talking. I was so locked into the camera and I just didn't expect it.
Oh, wow. Incredible. I'll never forget because that I was watching actually it was reported by WGN here in Chicago, the superstation, and Micah Mater said, we feel bad for Vince Martorano, not feel bad. A bird is on his head. And I'm like, Vince Martorano? I go, I'm going to be reaching out to him in a couple weeks. But
Yeah.
oh my God, it was, and you handled it well, where I think somebody else would have ran. You went right back to reporting, which I thought was fantastic.
I tried to cut the time of when it landed and I ran out of frame to come back and say reporting in Frankfurt, Vinny Martorano, News 18. And I just could not pull myself together to do it. But I let out I said, what the? Because I just wasn't expecting.
Yeah, right. I mean, this comes out of nowhere.
Nowhere. So I bit my tongue after the what the came out. I bit it so hard. I said, Vin, you have a mic on? That's
right.
it. That's
Because
it.
that proverbial word with the F could have came out.
Yeah. Blank space, insert whatever word you want to throw in there. Anything could have.
Right.
But
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, bit my tongue, and I just had to keep some composure. But on the bright side, I was like, well, this is really funny. Like, I can't wait to bring this back to the station and show everybody what happened.
And again, just something crazy like that, just like how you were, I really do believe everything is timing in life. Like how you went about getting to yourself now to this level of what you're doing now. Something like that, be like, wow, look at the composure of this young reporter during this time. It's incredible. Who knows what that may lead to, because this is still out there on social media.
Correct. And people around town keep going, hey, watch out for the bird. And it's a funny joke. And it's still going, what now? Almost, a little over a week later. But here's what was really funny about that incident, John. So if you notice that little house that the bird flew off of,
yes,
there's a parrot inside there. And parrots, they mock what people
they mock. Yeah.
So the 2 workers, when it landed, we all start laughing after. And then all of a sudden, from the little house, I hear laughter. So the parrot is now laughing at me. Until the bird landed. And I was like, I can't catch a break.
Oh my God. Nice.
It's like we planned it. All the birds knew it was going on. They started laughing.
A little before your time, when I saw that day, there was this movie from 60 years ago called The Birds by Alfred Hitchcock. I'm like, oh God, I hope that, more didn't come out. It was a very stunning movie. I got to ask you, because of your age, the young, but you have this professional way about you and you're very charismatic. Are you well received when you go do a report, or do you run into people that are, who are you? You're not a Bill Curtis here. You're Vince Martorano. But it seems like you're well received. Do you feel that respect when you're doing the story?
Oh yeah, it's been an overwhelming feeling of welcoming from this entire community. I have really been, and I report all over the place. I'm reporting as far as 40 minutes outside of Lafayette. So I'm really covering a big circumference around the main area. And everywhere I go, it's hi Vinny, like how's it going today? You're doing a great job. And it just means so much. That's, because I do this for the people in the community, like
Sure.
people live here, like as do I. And these are the things that people want to know. And to hear you're doing such a great job, we watch you every night, you're doing so great. It really means the world that this community has really taken me in such a short amount of time and just shown so much appreciation for the work that I've been doing.
Well, I could see that. I mean, you are totally big time into it to bring up all these things. Um, have you done the sports for WLFI?
Yes, a couple of times. There's been times where so the most sports that I do is I am an anchor for our Friday night highlight show. So
Nice.
the team goes out and we go to every local game that we can get to. So sometimes that's 12 games a night. And we'll go out, film first half, and then jump out to another game and film those and run back and get back by like 9:30, 10 o'clock, put our highlights together, and we're on the air by 11 o'clock. It's
Wow.
it's a quick turn, but I'm one of the anchors that goes out there and I'm reading off the highlights and tossing it to our reporters who are live in the studio talking about their games. And that is so much fun for me because it feels like the people I grew up watching, reading the highlights late at night, and me sitting on the couch at 8, 9, 10 years old going, I want to do that. And
Wow.
I did not think in my short time in this industry so far that so much would have come so full circle to me. And that is probably one of the coolest parts about what I've been doing is how much that I wanted to do this as a little kid. And I've gotten so many opportunities to do that
Sure.
at such a young age.
I got to tell you, so, I mean, just listening to this last part here of what you're telling me, like with
Yeah.
the sports and the highlights, is it safe for me to say these are 12-hour days?
Depending on the day where I'm traveling to, most of the time, if I'm live, it's like 9.5 hour days. Just because I start so late in the day, I'm only getting in by 9:15, 9:30. But it'll
But
go
your day could end at your day could sometimes end 8 o'clock at night.
Oh yeah, there's multiple times where, depending how far I'm traveling, I've gotten back at 8:30 and then I still got to put the web story up. And there's been some late nights and when I do that Friday night highlight show, I come in at 2:30 and stay till midnight. There's days I'm at the station till midnight.
Wow. And
So
you're turning around to come back at 9 o'clock in the morning, correct?
yeah, it depends what day it is. Yeah. I mean, and there's times, there's things going on Saturdays that, you just got to do because it's a big thing for the community
Oh,
to
for
be at.
sure, for sure.
And so,
Vince, and I hope if you get into this a little bit more about me, I've interviewed so many journalists. When I say I've interviewed journalists, Rob Johnson, who was very famous here in Chicago, Brandis Friedman from Channel 11, Chris Ty from Channel 2 News here, of course, Dana Kozlov from Channel 2. I've interviewed, and of course, a really nice girl from Channel 9 that I just interviewed recently. I have to tell you, it's a Jewel Hillary. I have to tell you, they've all said the same thing like you. But I got to tell you, I mean, what's great about you is you didn't know this, but when you were 9, 10 years old, you were gaining your own experience by watching those
yeah,
ESPNs and the basketball and the NBA show and everything else, you had that confidence. You said to yourself, I could do this. And you're doing it now. Yeah.
And that is by far the coolest part, to just 10 years later see myself in that position. And I'm excited, to keep doing it and keep moving up and getting to tell different kinds of stories, different areas, and see whatever comes next. It's
been
a really exciting time.
Vince, before we go, we're going to do a game of 5 questions, but I have to ask you, as the outsider looking in, do you look forward to every day, or do you get up in the morning and say, when you're a guy my age, 65, do you say, oh, good, I got to go to the news station, or I got to go to that travel agency and I got to make it happen? But do you say to yourself, man, I can't wait to get to WLFI tomorrow morning?
Yeah. Pretty much every single morning I'm excited, especially when I know the story that I'm doing, because I like cool, fun stories that I'm so passionate about, and working with my connections within the community of all this, because I get so instantly passionate about things that other people bring to me, because if it concerns them, it concerns me. I don't know why it does, but I'm just very receptive of how people feel about things and want to do it justice for them. So especially when I know the stories that I'm telling the next day, like for example, the one about the senior Olympian, I cannot wait to go meet him at 10 o'clock tomorrow on that track and record him and then put that together, because that's the fun of it, is getting to do that and put it together, my vision together, and still go on air.
Exactly. Thank you for putting it in those words. All right, listen, we're going to do a game of 5 questions. Answer them any way you want. 1 word, a sentence, a paragraph, I don't care. And then I got to say something about you at the end. And again, I know we're already past the halfway point of this interview, but we are visiting tonight with Vince Martorano, who's a multi-platform journalist for WLFI out of 18, out of West Lafayette. Tremendous work ethic by this young man. And people who have not watched this from the beginning, go back and watch it from the beginning, because this is, you talk about passion tonight and drive. This man has it. Okay, here we go. You mentioned your parents tonight, which that was fantastic. Question 1. Who besides your parents, you could bring him up? Maybe he was on TV. Maybe he was in the household. I don't know. Maybe it was a friend. Maybe it was an aunt and uncle. What other early mentor that you could say beside your parents where you said, wow, this person really helped me to keep this online?
Yeah. It is a guy I actually met at college. His name is Blake Dollier. And and I have a little backstory about him. He was my director when I came into Newslink, and he taught me the ropes of what it meant to be a journalist, what it meant to work in TV, how to use the cameras, how to write, how to report. I owe so much of where I'm at TV-wise, broadcast-wise, to Blake. Blake was also the former Fantasy Express, that radio show. He was the host and passed it to me. So that was a huge honor to be able to do that with him and then take it from there and then pass it on myself. Now what's cool is he is a PR, media relations person for the Indiana Department of Transportation.
Oh, wow.
And he and I collaborate on stories. So he works in the market that I do. So I interview him for stories. And that's been pretty full circle as well, to be able to link up with my mentor and me catch him up on the stories I'm doing, and me and him kind of go through the story that I'm doing with him and be able to kind of piece it together with him. That's been a really cool experience.
And look at that respect factor you have for one another. It's fantastic. Thank you for bringing that. Well, and again, the gentleman's name, Vince.
His name's Blake Dollier.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope Blake gets to see. So that's very gracious on your part. Okay. Second question. What is your favorite movie of all time that you could watch 200 times and not get bored?
Dodgeball. Dodgeball. Vince Vaughn, right there.
It is
It's so funny. It's so funny. I grew up watching it with my dad probably every week. It is hysterical.
It is hysterical. It's a good one.
I love it.
I like to get different things because, when I'm interviewing a lady, it's a romantic. When I interview some guys, it's a serious movie. But that's I forgot about Dodgeball with Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
And I think the gentleman who was in Meet the Fockers is in there.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure you've interviewed some people. You brought up situations tonight of things that you've interviewed. The person you're going to interview tomorrow, the track star. I'm sure there's been other people that you could have brought up in interview. Now, what would be your all-time interview? I want you to listen to this question carefully. What would be your all-time interview if it doesn't happen now, maybe in the future, 30 years from now, whatever, when you're still doing this and you're probably going to be the newsroom president? What is your I know what your answer is. Believe it or not, I know what your answer is, but you tell me. I know you want to interview me, so it can't be me.
Well, I'm already doing that. I've already hit my goal, John. So now I got to think of somebody else.
No, what do you think would be your all-timer?
John, you made my dreams come true right at the age of like 18.
No, but what do you think, Vinny? Your all-time? Two. I'll give you two.
Two. Oh, I mean, you know, talking on my news and sports side, it's got to be somebody from the Chicago Bulls. I can't put it, you know, I guess right now it had to be just Io DeSumo would be one of them. Just, you know, hometown kid playing for his hometown team. Like that would be an extraordinary.
He's played very well. He's played very well.
Exactly. So maybe, I mean, I've never thought about that, but like, just, I'm trying to think of like, what would be an awesome story because the Bulls are my favorite team. So that would be.
So the Pacers haven't gotten in your way yet. No.
I'm very Chicago sports through and through. So that would be up there. Someone with a really cool story from the Bulls. And then if I had to go news, it would be. Oh, that is a really good question, John. I'll tell you, I can't think of on a news aspect because it's just so different. You never know what you could be reporting. I'll tell you, the biggest person that I've interviewed so far is the Indiana governor, which was a really cool experience. I interviewed some local things, local events.
Vince, what is the governor's name of Indiana? His
name is Eric Holcomb. And that interview, I got out of that, I was like, whoa, that was like a really big deal for me. You know,
I think it would be for anybody, even a guy my age. You know what I'm saying?
So it was really cool to be able to just get that interview. And because that's a very professional setting too. Like this isn't just the guy you interview once a week for a story or whatever. This is like real state affecting work that they're doing. So to be able to talk to him was pretty cool.
All right, question 4. It could be something mom makes. Caroline, it's Caroline, right? Could be something mom makes or that go-to when you don't have time to have something when mom makes. What is that favorite Vince Martorano meal?
Favorite meal? I'll be honest, John, we grew up, every holiday was spent in Nani's basement, every birthday, every holiday, and 20, like 15, 20 people, you know, all flood into Nani's basement, and she's got a 5-course meal.
Of course.
Ready to go. The pastas, the everything is laid out. And that is something I just cannot get enough of, is spending family time at the table, eating amazing homemade Italian cooking from Nani.
Right. I mean, I'm sure, because in this same household, you're stuffed after the antipasto.
You're stuffed, exactly, because you've got this you're picking on, then the pasta and the salad. It's like, okay, where'd my appetite go? And then here comes spaghetti, meatballs, lasagna, and they throw it on the table. It's like, all right.
Yeah, exactly.
There goes my stomach.
And you know what? Let's give a shout out. I don't know if she's still around, but let's give a shout out to Nani. What was her name?
Her name's Louise. Yep.
Louise. Okay, that was beautiful, because that really took me back. All right, last question, then I got to say something about you. Last question. What is in the future for Vince Martorano?
Nothing is.
Where do you see yourself, Vince, in the future?
I see myself, honestly, it's so crazy, the options that I want to be able to provide myself with. I mean, always have thought about coming back to Chicago and reporting, you know, the news on the TV that my parents watch every night would be awesome, and my family gets to see. I've always been a big beach guy, so working down south would also be a dream. That's kind of the area I'm looking at now after Indiana, because I want to get out and experience some things. And
Sure.
before going somewhere super major, getting down there, kind of experiencing that lifestyle and being that bridge between small market Indiana and something major like a Chicago, a Dallas, a New York, wherever it may be in the country. But my plans are I owe a lot of what I've learned, what I've experienced to WLFI and Lafayette. But I expect myself to probably be looking for somewhere bigger with a lot, hopefully more opportunities for me to keep doing what I'm doing.
For sure. Okay, I'm going to say something about you, and I'm going to end it. And again, I'd like to say this about you, about WLFI. What's not to like about Vince Martorano? You've done a fantastic job. I want to tell our audience how I met Vince Martorano. It was 2019, and Vince was with the Front Noy at that time. And I get a call. It was during a time where I was inducted into the Illinois Hockey Hall of Fame for the years I was in hockey as a player and as a coach. And this young gentleman called my phone, and we did a phone interview. The phone interview lasted about 25 minutes, and every question that he asked me was printed in that article, which I have framed in my office. Vince, I will never forget it that day. Your work ethic, the passion, I saw it that day. And I says, Vince, I know you're going to probably have to cut this up a little bit. And I'll never forget what you said. He goes, no, Mr. Conenna, I'm going to put every word in here that you said because every word is true about you. I want to thank you. Vince Martorano, I'm going to leave you with this. There's something in here in this little bio that I read about you tonight. It's about Vince. It says, Vince loves meeting and talking to new people. If you see him out, make sure to say hello to him. You have made yourself available to so many people. I'll never forget what you did for me in that Front Noy article. And the last thing I got to tell you, young man, you keep doing what you're doing, because tonight's interview is the most passionate interview I've had in the 200 podcasts that I've done. And I truly thank you.
John, it means a lot. And I still remember that phone call. I'll tell you, John, was my longest interview I did at Front Noy, but it was one of the best conversations I had. Just passion going both ways. I wanted to know everything that there was about your hockey journey and just playing, coaching, what you did for the hockey community across Chicago, Illinois. And I just looked at my voice recordings and still have it.
Oh, thank you.
Get rid of it.
It was great. All right, you got to promise me one thing.
Yeah.
We're going to talk in 6 months down the road. I need to do a part 2 with you because tonight was great. Tonight, you got the 65-year-old feeling 45-year-old, baby.
That's awesome. Well, hey, I would love to come back. You just let me know when. We'll get that on the calendar.
Fantastic work.
Awesome.
And we'll get this out to everybody on YouTube and Spotify. Good night, everyone, and thank you.
On sale now at Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble stores. The Twins, A Journey of a Lifetime. The brothers and authors Tony and Carl Ruzicka take us through a journey of Chicago sports history and their memories of a bygone era. Purchase your copy today.